Number 14. Paul Clarendon Cox. Paul Clarendon Cox was piloting his ultra-light plane with his son-in-law back in 2011 when he crashed into a Ferris wheel at an Australian fun fair. The entire incident was recorded by 2 girls. Though no one was injured in the collision, Clarendon Cox sued the city. He claimed that when the fair moved to its new location, the council should have closed the local airstrip. He said that the ride caused a potential obstruction and there was a foreseeable risk of collision that they could have avoided. Clarendon Cox explained he suffered from post-traumatic stress and phobia, thus demanding compensation. Number 13. Unnamed Man. On September the 9th of 2003, an unidentified man died while riding a Ferris wheel at around 7:30 in the evening. The incident occurred in Longview, Washington. It's unknown exactly what had gone wrong, but the young man was electrocuted while sitting in one of the ride's cabins. No one else was injured in the accident, and the amusement park's employees immediately shut down the power as a precaution. When the fire department arrived, they didn't discover any loose wires or electrical faults that might have caused the unnamed man's death. They had to recover the body from a height of over 40 feet, and the authorities launched an investigation to determine what had caused the fatal electrocution. Number 12. Rani. A woman identified only as Rani decided to take a selfie while riding a Ferris wheel in Uttar Pradesh, India. She lost balance while trying to find a good position and plummeted to the ground. First responders arrived soon after, and the 20-year-old Indian woman was rushed to the emergency room. Though she arrived at the hospital alive and was treated for her extensive wounds, she ended up dying soon after. No foul play was suspected, as several witnesses confirmed the investigators' main theory about the accident. Number 11. Korean Ferris wheel tragedy. On August the 13th of 2007, a family of 7 was riding a Ferris wheel in Busan, South Korea, when the cabin turned upside down. 5 of the 7 plummeted to their death, while 2 others managed to cling to the handholds. Though most died on the scene, a 28-year-old woman was rushed to the hospital, but would pass away in the ER. The Ferris wheel, a ride known as the Giant Wheel, was over 216 feet high. This makes it taller than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Authorities investigated the matter but haven't released further information as of the recording of this video. Number 10. Scott Speicher and Colleen Steffen. While at the York Fair, Scott Speicher and Colleen Steffen suffered a Ferris wheel accident that was nearly fatal. While on the ride, their gondola flipped. They noticed that a bar had broken from the gondola, preventing it from remaining upright. The couple tried to call for help, but their screams went unnoticed. Speicher plummeted to the ground, suffering multiple fractures to his ribs, hands, and head, while Steffen was left dangling and sustained severe back injuries. They both required several surgeries in the aftermath of the accident. They filed a lawsuit against the park, and an investigation was launched on the matter. Number 9. Stranding on a Ferris wheel. In recent years, there have been several notable incidents of people becoming stranded on Ferris wheels. In 2002, one such ride in Escondido, California, malfunctioned, and it left 23 people stuck in their gondolas for over 2 hours. Fortunately, they were rescued without further incident. At a New Delhi festival, a Ferris wheel collapsed due to strong winds, leaving its passengers stranded. 12 people died and 20 others were injured. As recently as 2019 and 2020, such accidents remain eerily frequent. A ride in London came to a sudden stop due to a broken cable, leaving 16 children and 10 adults stuck for several hours. In 2020, firefighters had to use a crane to rescue 6 people trapped in a Ferris wheel at Panama City Beach, Florida. Number 8. Bernard Schoenberg. On August the 8th of 1985, the double Ferris wheel in Illinois was operating on its opening night. Bernard Schoenberg was on the top of the ride when it began to shake back and forth. A crane was used to keep the ride up, and it had been parked on a hill. The brake failed, and suddenly the wheel began to roll down, moving past the crowd. Schoenberg and his girlfriend were stuck at the top, which was over 10 stories tall. Fortunately, neither of them was gravely injured, and the rest of the people on the ride managed to survive as well. They were rescued by firefighters with a tall ladder, helping them down one by one in order to keep the wheel from tipping over. Number 7. Guy Salvador. Guy Salvador, a 21-year-old hairdresser, fell asleep while riding a Ferris wheel. Her long hair got tangled up with the ride's machinery at a fair in the Philippines. The young woman was awakened in excruciating pain as the wheel began to move, thus peeling her scalp off her head. The scalping began from her forehead and continued all the way to the nape of her neck. Salvador fainted and was rushed to the Southern Philippines Medical Center after losing a large amount of blood. She had to stay in the hospital for 6 weeks and endured several skin grafts. Her recovery was slow and painful, but she was grateful to have survived the gruesome accident. Number 6. Unnamed Girls. In 2016, 3 unnamed teenage girls were riding a carnival Ferris wheel in Tennessee when it suddenly overturned. An inspector determined a worn-out rivet fastener had snapped, causing the accident. They fell over 30 feet to the ground, and all 3 survived the accident with minimal injuries. The carnival's rides had been inspected before opening day, and all had been approved to operate not only in that state, but 5 others. The families filed a lawsuit and ultimately opted to settle it out of court. Number 5. Swatwood Family. On May the 18th of 2017, a family of 3 suffered an accident while riding a Ferris wheel in Port Townsend, Washington. The cabin tipped over and they fell 15 feet onto a metal platform. Sean Swatwood, aged 59, was taken to the hospital with severe injuries. His partner, Crystal Growth, and their 7-year-old son were treated for minor wounds. Though Swatwood was eventually released, he was left wheelchair-bound. Fantastic, the company responsible for the rides, claims that the family was standing up and moving around the cabin, which might have led to the accident. The Swatwood family denied this version and accused the corporation of attempting to shift the blame to the victims. Number 4. Fella Hassan Al-Habsi. Though most of the incidents involving Ferris wheels are connected to paying customers, passers-by have also been killed, in some cases due to freak accidents. In 2013, at the Global Village in Dubai, a scrap of metal dislodged from the Ferris wheel striking Fella Hassan Al-Habsi on the head. He was walking around with his cousin, and when he heard people screaming their way, he managed to push him out of the way. Unfortunately, Al-Habsi couldn't avoid the falling debris and was struck. The ride's operator had previously been warned at least twice that there was something wrong, but he disregarded this information. The piece of metal killed Fella Hassan Al-Habsi before the first responders could arrive at the scene. The ride continued to operate for 30 minutes after his death. Number 3. Busala Bhavani. During the 2019 celebration in honor of the tribal goddess Moda Kondama in India, a fair was put together but one of its rides malfunctioned. 17-year-old Busala Bhavani and her 2 friends were sitting in one of the Ferris wheel's cabins when it collapsed due to defective screws. Though her companions managed to survive with minor injuries, Bhavani died on impact. An investigation was launched to establish whether the fair is responsible for the accident. Today's topic was requested by True Vegas. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Miles Kessler. In July of 2019, a man in his 30s ran past security and began climbing up a Ferris wheel. The incident occurred in an Italian holiday resort filled with tourists. Bystanders could only stare in shock as Miles Kessler reached the ride's top. Kessler didn't leave any notes behind, nor did he provide an explanation for what followed. He simply took off his clothes and finally jumped off the wheel's highest spot. He fell over 150 feet, bumping against several parts of the ride before landing. The Ferris wheel was switched off by the operator, but there was nothing to be done to save Kessler, and he was declared dead at the scene. Number 1. Abaya Jones. Abaya Jones was 11 years old when she fell from a New Jersey Ferris wheel in June of 2011. The girl was on a field trip with the rest of her classmates and was riding in the cabin by herself. Jones suddenly slipped from a height equal to that of a 5-story building. People gathered around the unresponsive girl and attempted to revive her, but there was nothing more they could do. The fall had caused fatal injuries. An investigation was immediately launched and the ride was shut down. No foul play was discovered, and it was subsequently theorized that the girl might have been moving around in the cabin and slipped. Thanks for watching. Would you rather get stuck on top of a Ferris wheel with strong winds rocking its cars, or eat a Carolina Reaper, the world's hottest chili? Let us know in the comments section below.